Hello everyone, you are welcome to this lecture, video lecture, where we are continuing to look at educational technology. And in this video lecture, we turn our attention to teaching aids. So what are teaching aids? This is what we are going to explore in this video lecture, what teaching aids are, how important they are in the process of teaching and learning, how to identify these teaching aids, and so on and so forth. I am still your course facilitator, Dr. Mark Kahwa, a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Education at Mountains of the Moon University in Western Uganda. So what are teaching aids? Of course, we say that teaching aids is a tool or a technology that you use to support your teaching. So teaching aids, in simple terms, support the process of teaching and learning. Now, whereas teaching materials are the materials that have the actual target lesson in them. Later on, we shall make a distinction because normally students and actually teachers normally get confused when we talk of teaching aids, when we talk of realia, when we talk of models, and also when we talk of instructional materials, or when we talk of teaching materials. So those concepts, although a little bit related, but they are different. So later on in the forthcoming lectures, we shall make that clear distinction. So like of course here we are saying that the teaching materials are the materials that have the actual target lesson in them. So teaching aids and instructional materials are different. Now, principles and problems in the use of teaching aids. We want to begin with the principles. We have said that teaching aids can be objects, can be a technology, it can be any material that supports, just as the word suggests, aid. So aid is a support. So these support the process of teaching and learning. They simplify, they simplify the process of teaching and learning. They simplify content in the process of teaching, in the process of teaching and learning. If, for example, my topic is on digital tools, I'm a teacher of ICT, and my topic is digital tools. So if I come to class with examples of digital tools, those are teaching aids. If I come with a phone, I come with a projector, with a smartphone, with a laptop. Those are the different digital tools, but in that case, they act as a teaching aids. Now, teaching aids are an integral component in the classroom. They are very, very important actually in the classroom. As I have always been saying in the previous videos, I have been making an emphasis that prior to teaching, there is a thorough preparation. And it is under preparation when you think of the models, when you think of the realia, when you think of the instructional materials, and when you think of the teaching aids. So the main benefits of teaching aids, of course, include helping learners improve reading comprehension skills, illustrating or reinforcing a skill or a concept, differentiating instruction, and relieving anxiety or boredom by presenting information in a new and exciting way. So, of course, there are so many pedagogical values when it comes to the use of teaching aids in the process of teaching and learning. What are the principles? We want to begin with these principles. Now, these principles help in the selection and use of these teaching aids. The first one we are looking at is the educational value. So you don't just pick any teaching aid you find in the environment or to bring to a classroom. The first question is, of what educational value is that teaching aid having? Will it, for example, simplify content? Will it assist learners to easily grasp the content? What educational value is this learning aid having? So if you find that the learning aid has an educational value attached to it, then it automatically qualifies to be used in class. Then 2, realization of objectives. Prior to any lesson, there must be objectives set. So that at the end of that lesson, at the end of teaching that topic, the objectives that are hoped, that are presumed to be attained, are very clear. So therefore, the teaching aid you use must assist you in the achievement of the objectives. If it doesn't assist you to achieve the objectives, then it is as good as useless. Now, pupil-centeredness. Of course, nowadays we talk of learner-centered instructional strategies, learner-centered teaching methods, where the learner is put at the center. Unlike the pedagogical methods, teaching methods, where the focus is on the teacher, if the focus is not on the teacher, is on the content, but here we are saying that the teaching aid you select must be able to place the learner at the center. If the teaching aid won't assist the learner, if the teaching aid does not focus on the learner, then it shouldn't be considered. Simplicity and interest and motivation. It must be simple, first of all, to find, simple to use. Then relevancy and suitability, relevance to the content, relevance to the level of the learners. So you don't bring a teaching aid that is above the level of the learners. It must match the level of the learners. Well-preparedness, avoiding too many aids, means to an end. The teaching aid must be means to an end and not an end in itself. Meaning that teaching aids must lead you to achieve something. Then availability of resources, size of the classroom, finance, facilities, experienced teachers, and so on and so forth. And especially we are talking about finances, we are talking about size of the classroom. So those are very, very important. Finances are key because if you are going to buy the teaching aids, then the budget must come before. You must have budgeted for these teaching aids. So that is why you as a teacher, you always have to think through what you are going to teach ahead of time, so that you are able to know, no, when I reach this topic, maybe it will be taught in maybe the 5th week of the term or the 4th week of the term, then I need to have this material. Then you should plan for it and then budget for it so that it can be procured in time. Now, of course, we say that if a book is used as a course, prescribed resource, it is an instructional material. If the book is a student engagement activity, reading and discussing a story to build vocabulary and isn't part of the syllabus, it would function as a teaching aid. Of course, they're trying to give a distinction between a teaching aid and an instructional material. So meaning that one object, depending on the circumstances, it can either be an instructional strategy or it can be a teaching aid, depending on what you are using it for. If, for example, I'm using this laptop and I'm teaching, I'm a teacher of ICT, if I can go back to the example that I used, if I'm teaching about the different digital tools in the process of teaching and learning, and I use, I come in class with a laptop, so it can be an instructional material. But at the same time, it can be a learning aid if, for example, I want to demonstrate something, maybe by typing or by doing what. But using then this example, that a book that is used as a course prescribed resource, it is an instructional material. If the book is a student engagement activity, in the same book, if, for example, there is a page where there is an activity and learners are supposed to read that activity and then answer the questions based on that activity, then the book becomes a teaching aid because it assists the learners to read the activity and also to answer the activity. So examples of teaching aids. Teaching aids can come in almost any form. Some of the most common are pictures, there are videos, charts, flashcards, objects, educational toys. So the term teaching aid is used to identify such materials as being a supplement to basic teaching. Then, of course, we have what we call activity aids, those aids in which the student learn by engaging in some useful activities. These aids facilitate learning through sight and sound as well as through doing. Examples: science excursion and visits, science exhibitions and fairs, science museums, nature study corner, experimental in the laboratory and workshop. So those are activity aids. Science excursion and visits. Why are they teaching aids? Because they will help, they will aid in the understanding of a certain topic. Then, of course, these are other principles for use, because we already looked at principles in the selection. So those were principles in the selection. Now we want principles in the use. Principles in the use. Preparedness, awareness, teachers' preparation, student participation, proper presentation handling, checking, timely presentation, avoiding distraction. So you have to know at what stage are you going to present this aid, teaching aid. Is it coming at the start, at the introduction of the lesson? Is it coming midway? Is it coming at the end? Of course, the timing will be based on what you are handling and what you want to explain. Protection and preservation, they must be protected very well, preserved very well. I know there are some classrooms that don't have shutters and what, so if you live there, you are teaching aids, they can be destroyed. So you have to make sure that they are securely kept so that you can use them in the future. So instructional teaching aids must be well prepared, well presented. They must be readable, legible, visible to all, appropriate format for room and audience size, pertinent to the topic, up to date, consistent with the local protocols. So in a way, we are saying that the teaching aids are very, very important in the process of teaching and learning. And the teachers must take note of principles required before selection, and principles required before the use of these teaching aids. So for now, we shall pause here, take a short break, and when we return, we shall pick on from there. Thank you.